purpose of this demo is to showcase the most popular components available in the intranet and get you started thinking about what you would like to use on your homepage. It's also the time to open a dialogue with your team about an overall site structure, subpages you might require, and what menu items you would like to see in the menu bar. Within Claromentis, we have applications and components. Applications are products that fulfill a certain function and have a standalone area of the intranet, for example, news, blog, or policy manager. Components, on the other hand, are essentially windows to these applications that can be applied to pages of the intranet and interacted with directly, rather than having to navigate to the application itself. Using the settings of each component when editing a page means you're choosing the information that is shown on the front end, effectively tailoring this, rather than trying to show everything at once. Not all applications have a component, and some components serve a standalone purpose themselves. For example, we have a weather component, but no direct application for this, as it's not required for the component to operate, nor does it need its own area of configuration beyond this. The components included in this demo are not an exhaustive list, but this can be provided separately to you. Instead, we'll cover the most popular components typically implemented by our clients. Utilizing these components would be a great starting point for building your site. The intranet uses permissions to structure what users can see in line with your aims. Permissions are access rights that range from being able to view something, create an event, upload documents, and deleting content. The permission structure diagram seen here is a general overview of how this works. Those with all administrative rights are at the top of the pyramid. Content and application managers have mid-level access to certain areas, and at the bottom are your general end users. They will likely have minimal rights apart from the fundamental actions required like viewing and contributing to content. If you are going to be syncing your users from Active Directory, you may have already established permission groups that can be brought across into Claromentis and used to define permissions. If you are manually uploading users via CSV or aren't implementing a full sync of your Active Directory, the local groups can be made in the intranet and users managed directly in Claromentis. When in an application and assigning permissions, individual names can be added into permissions boxes and assigned rights. In some instances, this is appropriate to do. However, over time, it will become laborious to keep adding individual names across all applications, and this is the purpose of permissions, roles, and groups. They are effectively a label that encompasses a number of users. Adding the group or role name into a permissions box means all users included in this label will automatically get the access rights assigned. This is very helpful in scenarios where a new starter begins work and they can be added to the relevant permissions groups to gain access rights, rather than their name be added individually over all applications. System administrators, or sysadmins, have the highest level of access possible, which means they are permitted to see the admin side of an application. From here, they are able to change other users' access rights and see all content that has been uploaded. I've given a brief overview of how permissions groups work, just to make you aware that this is the method of restricting or giving access to your users in Claromentis. How you're going to be bringing your users into the intranet will impact on how your permissions groups are defined going forward. As you begin to use Claromentis and build up your content, the use of permissions groups will become clearer, and of course my colleagues and I in the support team will be on hand to assist you with any questions. Anytime I mention permissions groups in this demo, this is what I'm referring to. With that all now said, let's log into the intranet and I can show you around. This is the homepage of my demo site, and the first element we're going to look at is the navigation bar at the top of the screen, which is currently pink. This bar is static and remains at the top of the screen when navigating through the intranet. On the top left is the area where the logo resides. This will of course reflect your own logo and can be a standard JPEG, PNG image, or a GIF if you would prefer. The logo acts as a home button, so can be clicked to return to the home page from other intranet areas. In the middle of the bar is the global search. Entering a term here will search the whole intranet across all applications and return results. You can filter these per application. As content builds up on your site, you can set search recommendations for users and pin best bet results to the top of the search as a guide. The next element in the navigation bar is the calendar. This displays the current time, and hovering over the icon will show the date. Clicking on this takes the user directly to the calendar application, where you have a standard day, week, month view to choose from. The next element is called company links. These can be internal or external links to websites that are important to your company and are potentially required for employees to have quick access to. These are set by administrators and are permissions controlled on the back end. An end user would not be able to change these bookmarks themselves and would only see what the administrators have configured. This is in contrast to the next element available in the navigation bar, which are called bookmarks. These are personal links set by the end user themselves, so can be edited at any time. The Bookmark This Page button will automatically add an internal link to bookmarks in one click. Alternatively, other links can be added in by clicking on Edit Bookmarks. Here we can see an option to open the link in a new tab, or leaving this box unticked will open the bookmark in the same window. Deleting bookmarks is as easy as selecting the appropriate box and clicking the delete button. The next element is the application list. After the main menu and components on a page, this list is likely the next port of call for users to access applications directly, just like for news in this example. The icons of applications in the list are controlled by permissions, so if you don't wish certain groups to access certain applications, these can be hidden. The order of the icons can also be changed depending on your needs. The bell icon denotes the in-system messenger that is linked to the communication application. Clicking on this brings up a drop-down list of current messages. Clicking into a message will expand it, and the colour will change from yellow to white to demonstrate the message has been read. The green icon will allow a new message to be composed and takes the user to the communication application to write their message. Messages are used for direct communications between users, whereas notifications will hold all correspondence sent from applications within the intranet and can be used to send out bulk notices. Only users with permissions will be able to select sending information as a notification in this way. The cog icon holds the notification preferences for a user. Heading here allows the default setting to be changed or for a different method to be selected per application. Any combination of in-system push and email methods can be used. Push notifications are for mobile app users only. The time frame that read notifications will be deleted in also has a setting, and this can be changed here too. The purple icon here will auto-read all messages currently in the in-system messenger when clicked. Notification preferences can be accessed from the drop-down in the navigation bar here without needing to go to the communication application directly. System notifications are also stored under the Notification tab. The next element in the navigation bar shows the last 10 users that have logged in. On my demo site, only my profile is active at the moment, but on a live site, a list of names would be shown here. Clicking on the user's name would take you to view their profile. The next element is where you access your own profile and settings when you are logged in. Clicking on your profile photo expands a drop-down giving various options. Clicking on My Profile takes the user to a screen where they can update their information. The fields that will be available here are customizable and can be created to suit your needs from the admin side of the People application. If you are syncing users from Active Directory, then fields that are brought across will not be editable by users, as this information is managed in Active Directory only, whereas any fields made locally in Claromentis will remain editable for an end user. Clicking on My Settings takes the user to an area where they can change their password, system language, or theme that they're using for the intranet. They can also check which news channels they have subscribed to and those that they receive notifications for. The news channels that are given in this list will be created over time as you begin to add news articles to your site. The user's location and time zone can also be configured here, and there is a travelling option if users are working from a different area than the default set for the site as a whole. Clicking on your user profile will also give you the option of logging out of the intranet. The elements after the calendar in the navigation bar can be toggled and hidden if you don't want them all to be seen. To do this, we need to head into the design application for the intranet. This is accessed from the admin panel, and again, only those with permissions will be able to access this area. This is where themes are configured and tied back into the master design if required. Essentially, themes act as different skins for the intranet and can be made available for certain permission groups to choose between from My Settings in their user profile. Alternatively, one theme can be forced for a group so that this is the only theme they will ever see. This feature is useful if you have partners in an extranet or user groups that require separate branding, or they just desire a different look. Heading into the master design, we can see where the logo we covered earlier is uploaded and where branding colours can be applied to parts of the intranet. There are many design options to apply here, and this can be covered further in training sessions once we're building your site. It can be worth having a play around with the design panel on your own demo site to get to grips with how this comes together. Here is where you can edit the tab properties of the intranet, the title that will show, as well as the favicon image that will appear next to this in the tab. The interface and navigation section is where you can choose from pages created and set a new homepage, as well as the orientation of the menu bar. There is also an option to increase the width the intranet displays in, which decreases white space. At the bottom here, we can see the header section, where the icons in the navigation bar are shown. In order to hide these icons, I'd click on them until they turn white, and save this new configuration by clicking Submit. This icon would now not appear in the navigation bar and would be hidden for all users seeing the current theme. Now we've covered all the elements in the navigation bar, we can move on to the next area, which is the menu. This is completely customizable depending on the pages you create in the intranet and the content you wish to push to users. Only those with permissions to edit the menu will be able to access this area, so it is recommended for administrators to have these rights. As you can see, menu items can be set up to have sub-menu items expand underneath them. To create this menu, we use the application aptly named Menu Builder. Here the default menu that is currently displaying is listed. Clicking into this gives us various options, including the ability to rename the menu and set a limit on the depth of the menu that can be seen. To add or remove menu items, we need to click into the Edit Menu Items tab. Here we can see how the current setup of items listed is reflected in the menu bar at the top of the screen. Permissions can be applied per menu item, allowing you to build multiple menus within one, that based on access rights will only display specific menu items to groups of users when they are logged in. Clicking on the three small dots on the right of a menu item will bring up options. The first option here is to add a sub-level menu item to the current selection, just like how the sales, HR and IT items have been nested under the department item. This is how you create the drop-down list seen in the menu. When creating a new menu item, certain processes must be followed. Each item needs to be of type link and given a title which appears in the menu bar itself. The item URL is very important, as this will be the pathway the user is taken to when the menu item is clicked on the front end. We will cover this in just a moment. The order index allows you to change where this new menu item will appear in the sub-menu drop-down. As we made this test menu item the first sub-level item of sales, we only have the option for it to appear first. We can also choose where this item will open when clicked, which by default will open in the same tab, but checking this box will allow it to open in a new one. Clicking Update will save this new item and it has now appeared in the list. We can check that this has been added to the menu by using the menu bar. There is now an arrow next to sales to denote there is a sub-menu item nested underneath. Clicking on this reveals the menu item we just added. Clicking into the three dots for our new item, I have the option to delete it. Menu items can link to pages you have created in the intranet or applications themselves. As you can see here, the Learning and Projects applications have been linked directly into the menu. This is helpful if you wish to hide the application icon from users, but still have them access the area from the menu only. The URL of this menu item is relative, as in it only reflects a part of the URL and not the full pathway. This is because any internal part of the intranet you are linking to only requires this limited information. Clicking on the project's menu item takes the user directly to the application, rather than them having to search for this in the application menu. This isn't necessarily something you have to use on your site, but it is something to consider. In contrast to a direct menu item link to an application itself, the sales menu item on my demo site links to a page created in the intranet. The different web pages of the intranet are created in the Pages application. To create our menu, we link the URL of the pages here into Menu Builder. This is the landing screen of the Pages application and shows all the sites that have been created so far. A site is the overarching element that pages are created under. Here is the sales site that has been linked to the menu. Clicking the title or cog at the bottom takes us through to its details. Editing the site properties will give us its URL. This is what we will use in Menu Builder to create the link to the page in a menu item. Again, we can see that this internal part of the intranet only requires a relative URL rather than the whole pathway that would include the domain name. This ensures if any changes are made to the domain in the future, all the page links won't break and can still be followed because the domain has not been specified here. Moreover, if users are working from home or outside your network, the relative URL ensures all links remain followable. It's important when creating your pages to only use the relative URL in this way. The Pages application can be covered in more detail when we start to build your site. This demonstration is to give you a fundamental understanding in how pages are linked to the menu bar. Now we have covered both the navigation and menu bars, I can show you how components are added to a page and the general settings behind them. Each element seen here is a component that offers a tailored view of the information kept in an application, which are found in the list we looked at earlier. The components on this homepage each have a title and different settings you can apply to them. I have the majority included on the homepage of my site to show the variety on offer and make my life easier in demonstrating them to you. In reality, your own homepage would not use this many components as it looks very busy, and some components have functionality that is best suited for pages with a specialised purpose, rather than the general requirements of the homepage. In order to add, remove, or resize components on a page, we need to be in edit mode. The pencil icon in the bottom left corner of the screen will allow you to enter edit mode when clicked. The cog icon will take you to the page properties we saw earlier when retrieving the URL for the sales page. Permissions to edit and access page properties are set per page, so only groups, roles, or individuals with this right will be able to carry out the following action. The pencil icon will be hidden for anybody who doesn't have these rights. Now we are in edit mode. Hovering over components brings up their title. The small cog on the left holds the settings of the component, and the bin icon on the right will remove it from the page. Clicking and dragging components will allow you to move them freely around the page. Notice how the components reactively move in accordance with the component being dragged. They will snap into space when you have chosen to place the component down. This set of fast access buttons has just been resized using the arrow icon found in the bottom right of each component. By resizing and moving components around freely, you can easily change the layout and look of a page in seconds. Any updates you wish to make to a page can be made quickly and does not require any further work than clicking and dragging. To add new components to a page, find any white space and a cross icon will appear when you hover. Click in this area and the components list will appear. You can type into the search bar for a component title or scroll through the list. Hovering over each will offer a tooltip of information about the component's functionality. Clicking on a component will add it to the page in the space where the cross was shown. I have selected the button component, and upon placing it on the page, the configurable settings appeared. In order to fully realise the component on the page, I need to tell the system what information I wish it to display using the settings. This will be unique to each component. I will delete this for now and click on the Publish Page button in the bottom right corner to save and apply all the changes I just made. An on-screen confirmation message lets me know that changes were successfully applied. These will appear for all users who can see this page upon login, or if they're already logged into the intranet when they navigate back to or refresh this page. The first set of components to be aware of are the most consistently used in the intranet. First, we have the greeting, which we would always recommend to have on the home page only, as once a user has been greeted, they don't really need to be greeted again on every other page. The settings for a greeting are as follows. A title choice is given between the default and a custom greeting that you can input in the field shown. The name format of the user that will be displayed. This can be more informal and just set as a first name, or more formal and show first and surname. You can also set whether a user's job title will be included in the greeting or not. A kicker can be entered, which is a short message that will appear underneath the greeting. You can also change the location of the profile picture and where this appears in the greeting itself, or you can choose not to show one at all. There is also an option to make the greeting component transparent, which will allow the background colour or image you have set to appear. There's also an option to change the shade of the text, whether this is dark or light, which can be useful to change and be more visible on your background colour. You'll notice that as you select different options in the greeting, more options appear or are removed. Based on your desired look for the greeting, you can use the settings that are most appropriate to achieve this. The news component is another popular item to have on the homepage and is suitable to have on departmental pages too. There is the option to give this a title, and using the layout choices available, you can choose how the information will be displayed. The slider is a popular option as it makes the page more interactive, and articles displaying will scroll after the time limit has been set. The card and list views, however, are more static but offer more information to the user. News articles are separated into channels, which you can create to match your aims, and news items are added to a channel that is appropriate. Permissions set per channel define who can see, interact with, and add news to them. As you can see here, there is a channel called General and Human Resources. Having a channel per department is also another popular idea. Once your news channels have been set up from the admin side of news, you'll be able to choose them from the list given in the news component. You can then configure this in line with your site structure. For instance, on departmental pages, the news component could be set to only display their own news channel, e.g. Human Resources, whereas on the home page, the more general company-wide related channels will be showing. It's worth noting as well that if the news component is set to display multiple channels, when a user logs in, they will only see the news they have permissions for. All other news content will be hidden from them. Here I am changing the layout of the news component easily using the settings. You can see that I am offered different options based on the layout choice. For the card option, the abstract of the article will display, and I can set how long this should be on the front end. When you change to a card or list view, you will likely need to resize the component to best fit. In this way, you can keep the news component looking interesting by changing its layout and what information is being shown to users. The People component feeds from the People application, which is where all the user profiles in the intranet are held. Essentially, the component acts as a spotlight, highlighting certain groups of users and relevant information about them that you may require other users to know. As standard, you can give the component a title and set the design layout. The list option allows the most information to be displayed in a table-like view, whereas grid is mainly focused on user profile photos and one piece of attributed data. Metadata is the term for this information. You can configure user profile fields that hold metadata about a user, like phone number, location, their birthday, and maybe even the branch the user works at. Then on the front end, in each component, you can choose to display this information alongside each user. This can act as a quick reference guide when end users look at the component, which is showcasing the most relevant information. The Within Group section is where you define which user groups will be showing in the component. In this example, 3 departmental groups have been chosen to display. If any of these had a subgroup nested within them, I could choose the Within Subgroups option to also include these users. The random group ordering option ensures the order of users is not alphabetical. We would recommend to use the People component on the homepage to highlight new starters for a period of time. Using the date started metadata field and setting this to within a certain number of days will promote users that fit the criteria for a certain amount of time. It could also be within your aims on departmental or sub-team pages to display the appropriate team members instead. This also boosts engagement as users can see each other and recognise who is in which team. Furthermore, if you needed to contact someone, you can find the relevant information readily available in the People component. Of course, the way you choose to set up the component is up to you and should be in line with how your company operates and what information you would like end users to have readily available to them about other users. Buttons are the next component that I heavily utilised. These are links to internal or external sites that will take the user there in one click. The older iteration of this component is called Fast Access Buttons. These have the same functionality but can only appear as a set. You can configure each set in the admin side of an application called Slider. As you can see here, when I move and resize the component, all buttons in the set adhere to the same design rules. In contrast, the newer version of this, simply called Buttons, has many more design options and can appear independently of each other on the same page. We would recommend using the newer version on your site, but the fast access buttons will also be available if you prefer. Here I have clicked into the settings for this button component. I can create a new button straight in the component, which is a handy feature as I don't have to head to the application directly to add a new one. I would need to give this button a title and also enter the URL pathway that it will lead to. I can upload a relevant image for my button or choose from the default icons that are offered with the system. The title and background colour of the button can also be set here, as well as whether the button will open in the same tab or a new tab when clicked. The Select Button area lists all of the buttons that have been created so far. Checking the tick box against them means I'm selecting this to be shown in the component. Selecting multiple buttons means they will now appear as a set. I can change the order that they appear in by clicking and dragging them in the button order area. Button styles can be chosen as well, giving the option to display an image only, title only, or the image and the title. Depending on what your buttons are, the image may well define where the button will lead to without the need for a title as well. Resizing your buttons is easy and can really jazz up a page, whilst allowing users to quickly access vital external applications in one place. As you can see here, I currently have a few button components configured on the page. When one component has been set to only show one button, I can move this around by itself and end up with as many buttons as I like in different locations, which isn't achievable with the older version, Fast Access Buttons. There is also a direct link in the component to the Buttons application itself. This also allows for quick configuration of your buttons. Here all the buttons available are listed as they were in the component. I can add a new button here or edit those that have already been created. It is worth noting that permissions can be applied to buttons, but this can only be configured from the application here and not from the component. Any button created in the component will automatically be viewable by all registered users. I've changed the background colour of this button. Once I select it and add it to my homepage, the change has now been reflected. It is a good idea to start thinking now about what external applications you would like to have available on your site as buttons, and any associated images required in order to make them look professional. The thank you component promotes recognition amongst users by allowing them to be tagged and a message written about why the submitter is grateful for them or their work. The recipient of the thank you will receive a notification that they have been thanked. All other users can like each thank you message to show their appreciation too, and the submitter will receive a notification of this. Having this component on a homepage is a great way to boost engagement with your intranet. Submitting a thank you is done using the button on the front end of the component. A pop-up appears, allowing a user to be selected and a thank you message written. Soon we'll be implementing the ability to tag whole groups or roles within the intranet and not just one user. Past thank yous can also be viewed by scrolling back through the component, allowing users to like those that they may have previously missed. Editing the page, we can now access the settings for the thank you component. There is a field to enter a title and an option whether to show this or not. You can also disable users from being able to submit a thank you by selecting the option that will hide the submission button. You can set how many thank yous the component will display at any one time, and you can also opt to hide user profile images, or filter the results based on a given user. Thank yous that have been received are listed on a user's profile so that they themselves or colleagues can read back through these as desired. In a similar vein, the birthday and work anniversaries of users can be displayed to keep others engaged with the intranet and interacting with each other. The component that encompasses both of these aspects here is called anniversaries, but it can be set to display birthdays as well via its settings. By changing the metadata selected in the date field, you are altering what the component will be showing. This one is set to the user profile field of date of birth, which will show a user's birthday. The options here are straightforward. Essentially, you're choosing how many results to show at one time in the component and within which time frame they should start to populate. You can alter the message that appears when it is no user's birthday and the component will be empty, as well as the text that is shown when it is somebody's birthday. A handy feature is the ability to hide the actual date and year of someone's birthday, so that it won't tell you how old they are on the front end, only that it is their birthday. You can also hide a user's profile photo if preferred, and only their name will appear. The last two options allow you to filter the component by group or role. This is especially useful if the component is being used on a departmental page, as the results will only show users within those defined areas. The anniversary component set up here works exactly the same as just described, except the metadata selected to feed into it is from the start date user profile field instead. The message given when the component is empty and when the anniversary has arrived will also be different and more relevant for this happenstance. It is also likely that you would want the years to be displayed here to highlight the length of service each user has reached. For both anniversaries and birthdays, an orange dot will appear next to users that are a week away from their significant date, and a green dot when 3 days away. This can act as a visual reminder that this date is approaching and maybe it's time to write a card or buy a cake for that individual. This component really promotes cohesion between teams and all users of the site, building a real sense of community that can be hard to achieve if your company spans several countries or offices. The next component that promotes communication between users is called discussion. Whilst in edit mode and once having clicked into whitespace, this can be chosen from the components list. There is also a component called Discussions List that will display all topics currently active, but a user has to click on these to be taken to the discussion application directly to contribute. Whereas, the discussion component displays one of these that a user can interact with straight on the page. The options here are minimal, as all we really need to decide is which discussion we would like to show. Discussions are separated into topics, which, like channels for news, are configured from the admin side, have permissions applied to them, and can be set to cover whichever subjects your company desires. Again, if this was a departmental page for the finance team, I may well wish to display the finance team discussion as shown here. Whereas, the home page may host a discussion that is called General, or in this example, a discussion topic about the upcoming summer event. Now I have added this to the page, I can resize it to best show the information in the component. I've decided to show the thumbnail image attributed to this discussion, as well as the description of what this topic should be used for. Here you can see that users can contribute to the discussion straight on the page, which acts like any standard chat format you find online. Users can attach links, documents and images in their responses, as well as like and reply to other users directly. Clicking the View Discussion link in the bottom left of the component takes the user to the discussion in the application itself. This is the same link that would be offered in the Discussion List component. Heading to the landing page of the discussion application, you can see every topic that has been created so far, and these options are reflected in the settings of the Discuss component when choosing which discussion to display on your page. Having one or more discussion component active on your page is a great way to promote collaboration between your users and open a dialogue about subjects integral to your company. Setting up a topic for a discussion to take place is simple and allows users to contribute easily. The Policy Manager component feeds directly from the Policy Manager application, pushing all appropriate policies that have yet to be accepted to the end user. In the manager itself, you can set up a workflow process that is denoted by the label shown here. Distribution means this policy is live and will be included in this list if the user has not yet read and accepted it. The blue status here for consultation is an extra step that has been added. I as an admin can see this in my list, as I have yet to check it over and approve it for distribution. In-depth training can be given on Policy Manager as a whole, but at this stage it is only important to know why these labels are shown in the component. To accept a policy, the user can click on the title shown in the component to be taken to it directly, or use the link in the bottom left-hand corner of the component to view all those outstanding in the application itself. Policies are entered into categories that are set up on the admin side of the Policy Manager. This can be navigated using the tab shown here on the left. The settings of this component can be changed from its current configuration, that is a list of those yet to be accepted, to show all policies a user has uploaded, or a general list of every policy. These features may only be relevant to those users who will be managing policies themselves and won't apply to the general end user. They will likely only require the component to push outstanding policies to them. You can further define this by only choosing a select few categories to show. This component could be useful on the homepage or departmental pages, depending on who you wish to have outstanding policies made available for acceptance. The next component to cover is called Absence Requests. This feeds from the Holiday Planner application and displays a user's pending holiday requests. If the user is a manager, they will see their subordinates' requests that they can approve or deny. The settings here only offer the option to include a title and a checkbox that allows substitute managers' holidays to be displayed as well. From the front end, the end user will see any holiday they've requested in this list, as well as its current status. Here you can see that my profile has requested holiday, and this has not yet been approved, denoted by the requested label. Clicking on the request takes the user to their holiday planner, which will outline the current month. The request that is pending is shown on the 23rd and 24th of this month, and the question mark symbol means the request is still pending approval or denial by my manager. The user can get a whole year view by clicking on the My Holidays icon shown here. A user can also look at the holiday request for other users in their team, which is based on how holiday groups have been configured in the application itself. Permissions can be set to prevent users from seeing each other's holiday if you prefer. Clicking into the Request History tab will outline all the requests a user has had approved or denied so far. This can be a good quick reference area for a user or the manager. This is what my holiday request will look like in the Absence Request component when my manager logs in. The message here is not your requests, but instead awaiting approval. The manager can approve or deny the request right in the component without having to navigate to the Holiday Planner application by using the green tick or red cross respectively. Clicking on the request will take the manager to the same view that the end user who submitted the request accessed by following the same pathway, the only difference being that the manager can see their whole team's request in this view. They can approve or decline the holiday request here as well. The Absence Request component could be useful on any page of the intranet that users are going to be visiting a lot, as it will show their personal requests and never anybody else's. The text component is another useful tool that can really personalise your intranet. As you can see here, it has the ability to create hyperlinks, buttons and display video. Its settings allow the entry of a title and use a feature called CK Editor, which is used to configure text, images and source code. The CK Editor is also used in news, blog and knowledge base to create content, so functionality is cohesive across these applications, and after some time using it, the options should become familiar and easy to use. There are various paste functions available depending on where you wish to transfer text from. Standard undo and redo buttons, as well as text and font formatting features like indents, typographic alignment options, strike through, bold and underline are all available. Style options are given that allow the creation of buttons. These could hold information about notices that your users need to read or contain a link that they might need to follow. There are various heading and font options available and colour choices for fonts and backgrounds. The hyperlink feature allows text to be made followable to a destination of your choice. Using the star button option, you can turn a hyperlink into a clickable button. Removing a hyperlink can be done by clicking the broken link icon. Images can be added into the text component using the icon shown. If you are copy and pasting text from elsewhere, images will always need to be added separately using this process. Using the link tab, you can set a URL destination that the user will be taken to when the image is clicked on. You can choose whether this opens in the same tab or a new one. The Upload tab allows you to choose an image from your computer and send it to the server where the image is stored. This means in any other instance of the CK editor being used in Claromentis, you can choose from all the images that have already been sent to the server. Once my image is uploaded, I'm taken to the Image Info tab, where I can change the size of the image, choosing whether to lock aspect ratio or not. I've added a URL pathway to be opened in a new tab when this image is clicked. There are various video embed options available here depending on where your video is being hosted. Special characters are available for use as well as a background colour change tool. I would likely move the orientation of the image I just uploaded to be more central and remove the video if it wasn't necessary to make the component look cleaner. This is achievable with all the options given in CK Editor. With all the settings that are offered, you can achieve a very unique look in each text component on a page and come up with endless uses for them, getting vital information to your users as a result. The embed component also allows videos to be shown, and we would recommend using it for this purpose rather than the text editor we just saw, as it is more robust, reliable iteration made specifically for this function. As well as video, the embed component can be used to display social media feeds such as Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. It can also display iframes of websites that allow them to be interacted with directly in the component. However, not all websites will allow themselves to be shown in iframes, so it is worth checking this for those you wish to use. For a video, the code type can be used, and the embed code offered by the site hosting your video can be pasted here to display the content in the component. You can also link directly to the video's URL using the video type if preferred. For social media, we have literature we can send you that outlines steps on how to set up each of these. Essentially, each provider has an official tool that will give the embed code required to be put in the component to show your feed. It is worth noting that your Facebook page, Twitter or Instagram account cannot be private or age or location restricted, otherwise the feed won't work. The usefulness of the embed component means it can suit any page of your intranet where you would need to show a video or a social media feed. The document component is best suited to be on departmental pages, as you can choose which folder in the Documents application it will be displaying. However, if you did have documents or a general folder you wish to highlight to all users, you could have this on the homepage too. Permission set up per folder will impact on who can see and access documents, so it's always worth checking that whoever has permissions to see the page the component is on also has permissions to see the files being displayed within. Otherwise, they'll only ever encounter a blank white box where the component is. You can add a title to the component and then using the Choose Folder button, select a folder from the pop-up that appears. This outlines all current folders in the document application that you as a user have permissions for. The action for non-images setting is asking what you wish to happen when users click on files in the component. Would you like the file to be downloaded immediately when clicked, or that the user is taken to a document preview in the document application itself? The Always Detailed Upload button refers to whether users need to fill out extra information about the file they're uploading into the folder via the component. Not selecting this option means they can upload a file more quickly and within 2 clicks. There is also the option that the document will open in a new window or the same tab. Finally, the view options given are a display choice between viewing files as a list or as icons. Leaving edit mode and publishing the page, we can see how the component will be interacted with by end users. They have the option to upload a document directly into the folder, add a new folder, and change the view themselves that they will be seeing. There is a filter bar that is useful if the folder contains a lot of files for search. There is also a direct link to the document application itself in case the user needs to quickly check something in the application. Clicking to add a document, we are given a pop-up where the user will choose the file from their computer and is given the choice whether to notify other users that they have done this. The blue button in the bottom left allows the user to add the extra information referenced earlier, called a detailed upload. If we had selected that option, we would not be able to upload a file without filling out that area first. Otherwise, a user can just choose the file from their computer and click the Add Document button to instantly upload. The next components also aid engagement, and these are called polls and surveys. They are a helpful tool that can provide feedback from your users about the intranet itself initially, or company-wide issues once your intranet is established. Polls and surveys themselves are configured in the admin side of the survey application. Adding the survey component on the front end will offer a list of all active surveys that the user has permissions to take. This will let the user know when a survey has been completed and the user cannot take this again. Clicking on the title of the survey would take the user to the survey itself, where they can complete this or be shown the results so far if they've already taken it. The poll component is set to push all active polls, or just one, selected via the component settings, to the end user. I'm going to quickly set up a poll so that it populates the current empty poll component on the front end. The content you will be including in your polls and surveys will likely be more work appropriate than this demo question, but you can see how the poll is set up fundamentally and maybe come up with some ideas for polls that you would like to ask of your users. I've chosen to allow all registered users in the intranet to answer this poll. Heading back to the home page, the component is now showing my new poll. As an end user with permissions to answer, I can now cast my vote. The page reloads and offers the results of the poll so far. This is something you can configure not to show and hide results from users when setting up the poll itself. The next components to cover are blog and knowledge base. These feed directly from their respective applications. Blogs can be set to have an owner, meaning they are the only user who can post to this, or a more collaborative approach can be taken, where many groups of users can submit posts, and this is called a community blog. Blogs are usually more informal and social, but can have a business focus, of course. In contrast, knowledge base was created to hold more instructional information like guides on processes that relate to your business. Here we can see the blog component comparison with the knowledge base one. The blogs being listed are the same list given when in the blog application itself. Just like news, blog has channels that are created to define who can add posts to them as well as permissions to view. Adding a new channel will offer the option to set this as an individual's blog or a community blog. An approval process for content can be set up if required, allowing information to be checked over before being made live. In knowledge base, the process is the same, except these are separated into categories rather than channels. The same permission hierarchy applies to categories made as well. Essentially, what we can do with the settings for each component on the front end is choose which channels for blog and which categories for knowledge base articles will be pushed to the user. Here for knowledge base, you can choose to show all articles from every category or just showcase one of these. You can restrict the number of articles shown in the list, as well as choose from various design options that will hide the thumbnail image and date published from the user. The order of the articles can also be changed to reflect the most recent at the top, display them alphabetically, or those that have had the most clicks. For the blog component, the choices offered are similar. The amount of channels showing at once can be changed here, as well as the maximum number of posts displayed. The only difference is that the body text of the blog post will be shown, and you can choose how much of this you wish to display, using the options, as well as any comments that may have been left on the post. Clicking on the title of a knowledge base article or blog post will take the user to the articles itself in the application. Blog also has a direct link to the application in the bottom left and an option to add a post directly in the component. Having a blog on the homepage could be a good way to boost engagement, especially if an individual user has their own blog that promotes company news or growth. The final component we are going to cover today is called What's New. This component feeds from the global search and across all applications. Essentially, it offers a list to the user of the most recent uploads made in the intranet. The user will only be pushed the content they have been given permissions to see. This can be a helpful way for users to get a snapshot of activity across the whole intranet and let them review content that they may have missed. The component doesn't have any configurable settings like the others we have seen today. Instead, it offers the user themselves a filter that narrows the content offered by application. Clicking on the title of the item being shown in the list will take the user to it in the appropriate application it is stored in. As you may have seen when I was looking through the components list, there are a lot more available than included in this demo. If there are any components you're interested in that we didn't cover today, please let your project manager know and we can get more information to you. Next steps for your onboarding would be to start bringing your team's ideas together to draft a skeleton structure of your intranet. Using the information you have learned from this demo, you can start to imagine this potential site structure, including what components you wish to see on the homepage and what components you would like on the subpages. There may well be differences between what is appropriate for each area. You can also form a plan for the menu items you require and where these will be leading to. Furthermore, the general configuration of the intranet is never set in stone, and any design or layout decision made now can be altered at any time. The intuitive nature of creating pages and adding components to them gives a wide scope for changes to be made quickly and reliably until you're happy with how it looks, or at time further in the future. My team will schedule a call to discuss your site build going forward based on the plans you have come up with. This can be a collaborative venture with us here in the support team, helping you to build the site, or we can build it for you based on your plans. This will all be discussed on our next call, so in the meantime, really give your intranet some thought and use your own demo site to solidify your ideas. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining me and speak to you soon.